Hi, this is Cyril Linnery from The Bill, Cucumber, various other TV shows and films and theatre pieces, and this is HMP TV, Helping My People TV. Watch it. It's coming to a screen near you now.
Hi, my name is Robbie G. That's ROBBIE GEE. I'm here supporting and representing Helping My People Television, the place to be seen and the people to be seen with. Thank you and good night.
Yes, this is Carl Collins for Help My People TV. You can see it there. Bigging up the station, bigging up the diaspora. Blessings.
I'm Trevor Phillips, and you know my recommendation's good. Stay with HMP TV.
I can't say that I have family to leave behind necessarily. My mother died when I was 13. Not too long after that, my father abandoned all of me. 9 of us. My entire life seemed to change.
What's your name? Kofi Mensah. Kofi Mensah? Yeah, yes sir. Alwick Cross.
But that's a place. Since I was a little boy, all I ever wanted to do was become a pilot. Flying officer Alwick Cross. And now I'm actually here at the area, signing up.
Let's just go and kill Hitler. I don't know why you came back to this country. There's nothing here for you. They've been using us. Their men died and they called us. You think they want us here?
Come, let's go. Help me leave England.
There's somebody that I want you to meet. This is Mr. CLR James. Mr. George Padmore.
This young man, Ulrich Cross. We need him. Lovely.
The CIA, the MI6, the intelligence services, you have to understand. Building a movement is not easy, Mr. Cross.
I will go to Ghana.
So this is Ghana, man?
Yes. Welcome to Ghana, my friend.
Our President Kwame Nkrumah and the people came together to unite Africa.
At last, Ghana, your beloved country, is free forever!
Independence came to over a dozen states peaceably, but in the Belgian Congo, freedom was followed by rioting and army mutiny, reign of terror and disorder.
Well, Mr. Bumbutu, things seem to be a bit unstable.
This is my country, the Republic of Congo.
And I have to say, go and see the film. If you love history, if you love drama, if you want to learn about your culture, if you want to learn about the internationality of love, conquering all, go and see the film. I learned so much in that film. Go and see it.
Okay. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for attending what is now the 2nd anniversary of this national monument, the only national monument to African and Caribbean soldiers that served in World War I and II. There was at least 2 million of those who served. 2 million. Some were porters, some were carriers, some were engineers, some were pilots, some were infantry, let alone the women. A soldier marches on his stomach, it has been said by Napoleon and others. And for those who are unaware, at the low point in British military campaign, it was the African women who were feeding the army, a narrative that is not properly discussed. However, we are going to have a prayer. Before we go into the program, we are going to allow someone far more holier than I to intermediate with the gods and ancestors And I would love if you could give a wonderful round of applause for the wonderful special Bishop Michael Steele.
Good evening. Good evening. I think that's just a few of you. Good evening. That's a few more. Good evening. A whole lot more. It's interesting to know that we're here in the Windrush Square this evening, and I want to bring our hearts in oneness to a thought. What has happened in the Windrush generation and what's going on at these times? We look forward to a speedy resolution. We look forward to individuals coming out and supporting those who were fighting hard for us to experience freedom, liberty. There are lots of things that you look around today and you're experiencing, but I want to tell you today to be mindful of something very important. You're experiencing it today on the shoulders of what these men did and what these women did, on the sacrifices that they have made. I don't know if to say, let's give them a round of applause, or let's give them a minute's silence. I don't know what greater honor we can give to them, but I will assure you of one honor that I think is very fitting. And that honor is to remember. Say remember. Come on, say it again. Say remember. It's important to remember. The reason why it is important to remember is because in times back, these streets, you would not have been comfortably seeing so many of us. It is a result of what these soldiers and others have fought for. And today I want to acknowledge the work of the Nubian Jack Foundation. I want to acknowledge the work of the BCA, but also I want to acknowledge you as individuals. You see, without you individuals, if just Mr. Jack Bueller himself and myself had come here alone, what would the benefit be? But I want to thank you for being here this evening to witness what is going to be an occurrence that would go down in history. I might be a Christian bishop, but I want to say this. If you don't believe in prayer, that's okay. If you don't want to pray, that's okay. Whichever way you are comfortable to acknowledge the ancestors, the veterans, I want you to join with me quietly, and let's do that. Is that okay? Father, we thank you for this opportunity here in the Windrush Square, where we remember those who fought hard and strong, willingly, for the freedom that we so enjoy here in this United Kingdom. Father, we pray for the children, the grandchildren, the great-grandchildren, those that are here and those that will come as a result of their being here. We ask for a peace in the land. We ask, dear God, that those in power, the legislators, those, dear God, that make the decisions, we ask that favor will rest upon the individuals from the communities in the West Indies, in Africa, and those who have made their contribution back then. Father, we thank you for all that you're going to do this evening in and through our lives as the years come and go. We thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Fantastic, absolutely wonderful. So let's get it right. Let's get it right. 2 years ago today, this was unveiled by Sir Michael Fallon, who fell on his sword due to busy hands on his PA's knees. Anyway, 71 years ago, today, our ancestors, some wonderful people, arrived on the motor vessel Windrush on this very day. And this square was renamed Windrush Square in 1998. If you look over there, by those toilets, disused toilets, after this ceremony, take a look on the floor. You will see sugarcane stems that fueled Tate and Lyle. That's the Tate Library. And we know our ancestors' relationship with sugar. And we also know our current generation's relationship with sugar, diabetes and them thing there. But guess what? I got a little sweetener for you today. Because what we're going to do right now, we're going to call Nicola Cross. And for those who don't know, Nicola Cross is the star of a film that's being shown at the Ritzy right now. She is the focus where a story is being told about Ulrich Cross. Ulrich Cross was the highest distinguished military Caribbean figure. And he is featured in a film called Hero. You must see it. It's really good. It has a Pan-African perspective, and it's wonderful.
I'm going to ask each person on the stage to just introduce themselves. First of all, Cecil Gutsmore, can you just tell us a bit about you? Briefly.
Yeah, okay. My name is Cecil Gutsmore. I'm Jamaican, obviously African Jamaican. I've lived in the UK since 1961 with a break of 11 years back in Jamaica. I teach, I write, I'm an activist of some kind or another.
Thank you. Adjo Ando, tell us just a bit about you.
Say again?
Adjo.
My name's Adjo Ando. I'm a local resident, lived in Brixton since '84. I've done 3 films with Francis Anne. I've worked with Bert Caesar. I'm an actor, director, activist, I suppose. Yeah.
And last but not least, Francis and Solomon. Another round of applause, please, ladies and gentlemen, for a stellar achievement. Francis Anne, I'm going to start off. We only have half an hour, so we'll have just a few comments from the panel, and then we'll open it to the floor for questions and answers. There's a moment in the film when Ulrich Cross is lying on his side receiving physiotherapy. He's in a totally vulnerable state, and he says quite matter-of-factly that he flew 80 missions over Germany as an RAF navigator. For the last 30, he expected to die, to perish at any time. As a visual epitome of the film, of the title of the film, Hero, it's hard to beat. But you knew him as Uncle Ulrich. Tell us about him as Uncle Ulrich, this hero in civilian life.
So Ulrich, I didn't really call him Uncle Ulrich, I called him Ulrich. Can you hear me? Can everybody see?
Can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't really call him Uncle Ulrich, I called him Ulrich most of the time. He was charming, children, and everybody loved him. He got along with everybody, he was very personable.
The gentleman now joining us is Mr. James Fairweather, an RAF veteran, arrived in England in 1943, and coincidentally he also returned to England on the 21st of June 1948 on the Empire Windrush. James Fairweather. And I should add, we have in the audience in the front row another passenger, an ex-RAF veteran, Mr. Wilmot, in the front row here, who also arrived. Thank you. So, tell us a bit more about Ulrich Cross as a civilian in Trinidad, someone you knew.
Well, he lived very humbly. He got along with everybody. He was very, very charming. And well, here's the thing. I interviewed everybody in his family, and I asked everybody, because I'd already decided, I'd been told by my mother to make a film called Hero, about Ulrich. That was the mandate. So it was hard to imagine him as a hero, frankly. And I asked everybody in his family, do you see Ulrich as a hero? And to a person, they all said, no. And I believe that, first of all, he talked about his life, and he was quite boastful about certain things. So he would tell these stories over and over again. I flew 80 missions. I was the Attorney General in Cameroon. You have to understand, he was in his 90s, so there were certain stories he just recounted over and over and over again, without, as if he couldn't believe them himself. Do you know what I mean? And when he got recognition very late in life, the Cameroonian government gave him a medal, and he came to England to get it. And he wept. He stood there and he just wept the whole time that he was getting that recognition. So I don't know if that helps you. None of us, that's why I feel like we don't know the people who are walking among us. And we don't know how to recognize the heroism of ourselves and of our people, because the models that have been presented to us from always have been white and English. So I wanted to tell the story from the point of view of his daughter, or us, me, his daughter, from the point of view of another generation, a woman, another gender, a privileged person standing on those shoulders, who doesn't know. You know, that's why I did it like that.
Thank you. Mr. Fairweather, will you pass the microphone to Mr. Fairweather? I wonder, you arrived, as I said, in 1943. Coincidentally, you came on the Windrush. When I think of people like you and your story, I don't see really an immigrant in the way we talk about it. I see a man who was a patriot, a man who put himself in harm's way to fight fascism, and later on came to help rebuild England. Can you tell us about your motivations? What inspired you to leave Jamaica and come to England in 1943 to put yourself in harm's way to defend king and country?
I came back to England, and I came back to England at the Windrush, having served in the Air Force from in the 40s to 1947. I went back to Jamaica and came back on the Windrush. And I find the Windrush people came into Lambeth because I couldn't find anywhere to live and all that. And I was one who suggested we go and see Colonel Lipton, who was MP for Brixton, and asked the Lambeth Council to open the air raid shelters, one in Stockwell, and the other one in Clapham South. And that's how the Windrush people get accommodation. And I'm proud that I had suggested that. And Mr. Marcus Lipton, Colonel Lipton actually, was wonderful in getting that done, because he approached the Lambeth Council, which owned these two air raid shelters, Clapham South near the underground, and one at Stockwell.
Thank you. Could you also tell us, Mr. Fairweather, about the motivation? What inspired you to come to England in wartime to put your life at risk in service of this country?
Could you repeat that question? Because I'm not hearing it well.
He's asking what inspired you to come to fight for Britain or whatever you were fighting for at that time. What was your inspiration?
of course, we were brought up to love England because England is our mother country. And England has looked after us. Because at school, my mom used to buy magazines and things from England, and we know all about England, and that score that the mother country is at war. My eldest brother said to me, I should join the RAF and go to England, and after the war, if I want to come to America, he'd be living in the United States. And I did what he said. And when we came to England, we were well received. And we landed in Glasgow and take the boat train and to East Filey. That was our training camp.
Well, I gathered that when you were in Jamaica, maybe you can repeat this for me, please, Cecil. When you were in Jamaica, Mr. Fairweather, you saw a film, a British film, about the RAF, which you also identified with. Can you tell us a bit about that story?
Have you heard? He's asking about a film that you saw in Jamaica connected with the RAF that he wants you to tell us about.
The film I saw in
Jamaica. In Jamaica.
The film that you saw, In Which We Serve, a film with Noel Coward, about the RAF.
Do you recall the film in which we served? Do you recall that film? Seeing it while in Jamaica? The Noel Coward film in which we served. Did you recall seeing that? Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, that was a wonderful film.
Yeah.
The war, yes.
And was that part of what inspired you to come, or was it?
No, my elder brother. And before the war, this is interesting. I used to be a man, go up on the hill. This is well before the war. And he used to blow on his bamboo fife. And like this, soldiers going to war. Soldiers going to war, soldiers going to war, and some will never return. And another song, which was a wartime song. It says, some flags of Alexander and some of Hercules, and there is none to compare to the British with theirs, and that is a British regiment. So this fellow who used to play on his bamboo fife, soldiers going to war, and some will never return, and England is going to win the war. And it wasn't long after there was England declared war on Germany. And I often wonder, this fellow was a philosopher or whatever,
Prophet.
A
prophet.
Yes. Because he always found an hilltop to go and blow his fife, make out of bamboo. And then his song is some flags of Alexander and some of Hercules, which was a wartime song, and very marching is going. So it was wonderful, listening to him, and to see England won the war. Oh yes, that is important. They said England stood alone. Because when the war started, America didn't come in. America didn't come in until 1942. The war started September 1939. And some would say England stood alone, but England was never alone because from the Indian subcontinent, we had 2.5 million men and women as part of the British Empire, plus the African colonies. In the Caribbean, the women in the Caribbean, they collect money and buy a squadron of aircraft. It's called the West Indies Squadron. And the Caribbean women, they did that. And besides that, the Jamaican government used to give rum to the Royal Navy. They're working in the Arctic, servicemen and all that, and it's very cold in the Arctic. So they used to give them a tot of rum each morning to warm them up with it, after tea or whatever it is. And again, the women, the Caribbean women, that do all the knitting and things like that. And I think that was wonderful, you know, from the point of we in the Caribbean, who made all, do all that, and what all they were interested in is that England is going to win the war.
Thank you, Mr. Fairweather. A round of applause for a living hero amongst us, Mr. James Fairweather. Cecil, just to come back to the film, to Francis Anne Films, just tell me, you've seen the film twice now, I know.
Yes.
Is there a moment or a sequence, something that stands out for you? And can you just give us a little riff, a short riff, on a particular moment in that film?
I want to connect with something that Mr. Fairweather was just saying. 1956, I was 12 in Jamaica, and Britain had invaded, or was in the process of invading, Suez. Everybody remembers that. And as a schoolboy, and in that moment, the headmaster gathered us all together and said, remember, half of Britain is up in arms against this invasion. And we in the Caribbean are being told by the headmaster, what did he say? England's just entered a war, and the war might last long enough for some of you to be soldiers and nurses in the war. That's how little things had changed between 1940 to the 1940s, when men like this brother and my uncle and relatives of many of us in this audience went off to fight, and late colonialism, which was still cultivating Caribbean and African people to serve empire. Now, this film is important, and I congratulate our sister because whilst the Second World War and Windrush moment gives us heroes, Ulrich didn't stay with the Second World War moment. He went on to another mode of struggle, the struggle for African liberation, and contributed massively in that. And that's what, for me, is inspiring about the film, the need for us to know that the struggle for liberation against the empire that our brother says treated us well, we can debate that and even dispute it, but the truth of the matter is that the next phase of our struggles is ongoing, and in all of those places that Ulrich went, they are now neo-colonists, and we still need to be engaged in a liberation struggle. So, and this film speaks to that, even when it's not obvious that that is what it is doing. I'm really loving it and happy to see the second.
Thank you, Cecil. Adjua? Is there something you'd like to address, or would you like to just keep me the film in mind? A moment or a sequence, an image which speaks to
I'll
you?
go with your questions, but it picks up on what both the other panelists have said in a way. Just that there are two things that really jump out at me. This is the second time I've seen the film. I could watch this film probably on repeat, just on repeat, because it's like we're hungry for this. So the moment where somebody says, I think it's CLR, James says, you know, when will they allow us to own our own narrative? So that, what, Donna? To tell our own narratives. Well, tell, own, but I just, own. I think it's that thing that we have not been allowed to know our own histories. The history that we're taught is ahistorical because we're excised from that narrative the whole time. And how do we have a sense of ourselves going forward if we don't know where we've come from and who we are and how we build upon what's gone before? Are we going to be constantly in the cycle of trying to reinvent the wheel when we already did it? So that drives me mad because I think it's a way of slowing us down and keeping us back from where we should be. And the other thing that I find very moving, both times when I've watched it, is to see all those men, but people from the Caribbean and from across Africa talking about a United States of Africa and saying we will back each other up and we have to get them out, and to feel that drive, the way that people interacted from across the Caribbean and with Africa to say we have to shift this state of affairs. We have to shift the colonialists out. We are intelligent, strategic enough. We have the resources, minerals, intellectual yearning, love, and togetherness to do that. And the way we get hived off from each other. You know, today is Emancipation Day. It's Windrush Day, but it's Emancipation Day, Slavery Emancipation Day. We have to, I feel like we need to hold all those stories together in community with each other. I love the fact that we see Ulrich Cross with the character from the Caribbean, Kofi, that, you know, it was Africans and West Indians and Indians and, you know, people from across the Commonwealth who were involved in supporting this country. And it also speaks to when we have this narrative now about, you know, well, we got through the war, we can do Brexit, we stood on our own before. No, this country didn't stand on its own. Yeah. This country stood on the foundations of us. So, you know, this film is really timely. It's not just a historical artifact. It informs our today and it informs the way we go forward with our tomorrows, but it really informs us having to be together and pull together and to understand. Patrice Lumumba was assassinated by the head of MI6 in Africa, a British woman, and to don't get fooled about who these people are and what they want from us and what they want to do to us and how they continue to undermine our prosperity and our well-being. So thank you.
Thank you, Adrian. Francis Anne, if I come back to you, this film took a long chunk of your life. It tested your stamina as a producer. Could you talk a bit about that, and also about the aesthetic choices you made to meld reconstruction with archive?
Yeah.
And maybe if I can add a little third, which I really wanted to know, the character of Anthony McFarlane, is it based on somebody real?
Okay, the first question was
the time it took you to make the film.
It took me 8 years to make the film. 8 years. It took me 8 years to make the film because I don't think I had made or seen a film like what I wanted, what needed to be told, and so the birthing of it just took forever. I didn't know whether it was going to be a documentary or a drama. How was I going to tell all this period over, you know, what was I going to focus on? I knew I had an instinct, and you know, as an artist you have instincts and you just have to follow them, and then they reveal themselves over time. So that's pretty well what happened. Yeah, there were different phases. There was the interviewing Ulrich and his family and everybody else. There was the reconstruction where we traveled to Africa, England, and in Trinidad and shot his childhood, his adulthood, his Africa years. There was the sitting back and editing all that together and bringing it to life in the context. There was the finding Ulrich's voiceover, finding his voice, because he didn't talk like that. He told stories. He didn't say why he wanted those stories. You know, he didn't say why he did things. He didn't talk about how he felt when those things were happening. So, you know, you had to kind of split him open and give him a voice, an inner voice. And then there was my perspective of, as an ignorant person, wanting to tell that story. So that all took a very long time to tease out. Stylistically, it was that I had to tell the story. I didn't have a lot of money, and I had to tell the story. I had to tell the story of 3 continents over 70 years with very little money. And so I used archive-like drama to tell the story. And Adjoa said to me the other day, that's what I do in all my films, which is true. Put black people back into history. And what was the last question?
The character of Anthony McFarlane. Is it based on a real person, Anthony McFarlane?
Okay, 2 things. One is that there was a guy called James Harker, and when CLR James discovered in the 50s that he had been a lifelong spy, he wrote a book about Padmore. He was a writer and academic, and he went to Trinidad and wrote a book about Henry Sylvester Williams, and all of it was a front. He was CIA from the time he left from the time he left the army, but he was white, and I wanted to, but actually. He was white, and I thought it would be too obvious to have a white spy. So I remember my mother telling me, and Patsy as well, Patsy was right here, saying that there were recruiters all over the place in those days. They would come up to you if you were in the diplomatic corps or, you know, in positions that could be good fronts, and they would, you know, try to get you to you know, be a spy. So I like the idea of exploring that idea that somebody embedded in our culture, which is not far-fetched at all, because, you know, I'll leave that to your imagination to figure out.
While you're answering, I mean, he asked a very important question. It impressed me enormously during, especially the first showing of the film, and I think you're underselling your innovation in running archive together with current contemporary stuff. Yes, and you need to tell us a little bit more about, as you did on that BFI occasion, what you did when you were doing that.
I love history. A lot of us spend a lot of time watching history, looking at history. We're always seeing images, and it's hard to see, you know, archive, and we're never in it. We are there. We were there. So the first time I did that was there was a film that I made, a very early film that I made about Caribbean women who served in the Second World War, and when I was going through the footage to try to find them, I went researching, and there was never any footage of these women. There were 300 women who came from the Caribbean and served in the ATS. I couldn't find any footage of them. So what I did was I cast Adjoa and Martina Laird, and then I took the footage where there were no black people, and I cut out the white people. So it was so much fun. I have to say this over and over again. That moment, there's a scene, there's some footage where you see people on watching a train leave, a train of soldiers leaving, and they're waving at the people who are leaving, and the people are waving back. So I have them waving at the people leaving, and then I have Adjoa and Martina waving back.
But just tell, I mean, we haven't got much time, but the story of how many actors did you have in Ghana in those crowd scenes, which look as if it's 1,000 people? But we want to hear from you too. So tell us about that moment of filming those scenes, Nkrumah
Just
scenes.
as we are not in English history, there's nothing in the archive about us being part of the African liberation movement, Caribbean people. And so I really wanted to take that iconic independence scene where, you know, and put us into it, put Padmore into it. Padmore was there, CLR was there, you know, Amy Garvey was there, Amy Ashwood Garvey was there. There were a lot of Caribbean people who were there on the 6th of March. Kids wrote a song about it, you know.
Yes.
That day, you know, it shall never be forgotten. So we were involved. So it was very important to me to have that scene, that iconic scene where Nkrumah, you know, mounts the stairs in his prison uniform and says, and the flag comes down and the flag goes up and, you know, and everybody, millions of people are there, freedom. So we shot that, you want me to tell that story? We shot it with 8 people, and the actors were like, you do know that there were 1 million people there. Yeah, I know. They thought I was stupid because I was a woman. Those were the days. And anyway, I shot it with 8 people, and then we intercut it with the millions, put a football track on it. Football, yeah.
That is the magic of art. Thank you. Now, we have about 15 minutes left to throw open for questions. Please, just one proviso. Can you make them short questions? Only spin bowling is allowed if it's a game of cricket. No long runners for fast bowling, please. So, are there microphones, or are we going to just people going to project their voices? The first person I'm going to turn to is.
That man's finger went up first.
Oh, sorry. Yes, this. Could you just tell us your name and just shout your question, please?
My name is Annette Jeffers, and I can watch this again and again and again. And I'm not a person to look at a film the second time, but that is absolutely fantastic. What I was going to ask you, but I'm telling you, it has to be shown in Ghana.
Oh yes, yeah.
It has to be.
Yeah, we have it.
When you go to Ghana?
March 6th, 19.
Yes. Can you show? Can you project it?
Name?
Anton, can you project it?
Stand up, stand up, stand up, stand up. No, because we won't hear.
I want to tell all my friends to come and see this. But do you have a problem with distribution? Because I want to say to them, yeah, go to this place and yeah, it's there for the next 2 weeks. What's it? Because it's spotted around London. Why is that?
There are 6. I will announce it at the end, Anton. There are 6 more screenings around London. Is it going to be a wide? Is it going to be streamed or something, Francis? What's the distribution?
Yeah, well, distribution is very expensive, but we are building the ideas to and a small film like this, with a whole lot of, as the Telegraph said, unknowns in it.
Not to us.
Hello. Anyway, let's move along. Fresh Prince. Those Ghanaian actors are superstars. But anyway, but that's, you know, the systemic racism that we still face in terms of our work. So, you know, I think we are building momentum with the film little by little, and I think we will get a wider release.
The gentleman here in the green flat jacket, and then I'll come to the lady at the front. Yes, sir. What's your name, please?
My name is Tim Dale. So I find there's so many layers in there. It's a love story, beautiful love story, starting with the death of his mother and everything. But there's so many things, because this film, Our Cross, represents a group of Caribbean people,
yes,
as he said, who were the creme de la creme of the Royal Air Force that helped Britain to win the war, the Second World War. He said they were losing the war.
Yeah.
They were losing the war. And that's very important to be told. I think that's a very important point to make. And secondly, this man, a brilliant man, couldn't get a job. I mean, what a shame. What a shame to have a hero fighting to win the war for this country, going to school and can't get a job. Shame, shame, shame.
And you know, sir, you can add to that, E.R. Braithwaite, author of To Serve With Love, he was also in the RAF, and he couldn't get a job, so he ended up being a teacher and writing that iconic book, To Serve With
But
Love.
we still can't get jobs. I don't know what you...
Thank you. The lady at the front here, thank you. Just tell us your name and your question, please.
My name is Patricia Saunders. Good evening. Happy Windrush Day to each and everyone.
I must commend you. Thank you so much, and congratulations to the two veterans who never got recognition for D-Day. I do congratulate you. Would this be a sequel, or would you be making a book, and would it be shown again for Black History Month?
Yeah. Well, Black History Month, we definitely, I think that's a platform that we can use to, persuade the cinemas to give us a wider release. So we have a big plan for that. So there's as many people as possible get to see it. In terms of the book and the sequel and so on, you do it, because I'm done for this story for now. The point is, you can tell your own stories.
Thank you. The lady, yes, the earrings, yes. This is the last. Oh God, two more.
But it's one more question.
One more question. All right. Yes. Yeah, okay. Scheduling. You see, please, your question.
My name's Kirsten Jones. I really congratulate myself. I really enjoyed it. I study history, and there was some stuff in it that I didn't know, and I've been studying history for a long time. I was kind of curious how much research was involved. You mentioned that you knew Woodcock personally. Some of the stuff that must have been additional research. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about how you found out some of it.
Little by little, right? Okay, so she asked, how did I find out what kind of research I did, and how did I find out the things about his life? I talked to everybody around him, and then I read a lot. I went on the internet, and also, so it was a question of kind of pulling things out of different, like for example, I couldn't find anybody to tell me what was going on in Cameroon, why he left, what happened. And so I made it up. And you know what? It's true. What I did. That's how deep my research was. I met a guy about 2 years ago who said, 3 years ago, somewhere along the way, who added a piece. He said in Nkrumah, that Ulrich told him before he died that Nkrumah asked him to go to Congo. That's incredible, that's amazing, you know. So it was like that, it was like gems and things, and that's partly why it also took so long, you know, because I really wanted it to be as truthful and have as much integrity as possible. And you would, it was like a patchwork quilt, you know, it was like archaeology, and imaginative archaeology too. But even my imagination, I really said, you know, you can't just come up with anything. You have to come up with stuff that is truthful.
I'm sorry, that has to be the last question because of scheduling. But I just want to end with a quote from Toni Morrison, which I came across this week from a recent essay. She says, "How bleak, unlivable, insufferable existence becomes when we are deprived of artwork. You are the influencers, you are the amplifiers, you are the spreaders. Please let everybody know about this artwork, and a big round of applause, please, for producer, writer, director, Francis and Solomon."
So we're going to do a vote of thanks, which Patricia Hamzahi from the BCA is going to do the vote of thanks, and those who have been invited, please also join us at the BCA for a reception after.
Yes, so I've been asked, first of all, thank you all for coming on behalf of the BCA. We really enjoyed presenting this film and encourage you to all go to the other showings. This film needs to be seen, so tell all your friends and family to go and see it. This film wouldn't have been possible without a lot of support Francis Ann had received. So I give thanks to Air Canada, Shiloh PR, The Voice, Alt Africa, the New Black Film Collective, Blue Dolphin, Black History Walks, BFI, the Trinidadian High Commission, lots of thanks there, Diverse Histories, Republic Bank Limited. Thank you.
No. Hero is an excellent film. It's quite a long film, but you don't actually notice it when you're watching the film. I was captivated from start to finish. Francis Anne Solomon employs various filmmaking techniques that make it a very compelling watch, as well as the traditional narrative drama that you see in a film with actors portraying the characters on screen. It's also interspersed with archive footage of places that Ulrich visited, as well as interviews with the real Ulrich and his wife. It's a real insight into a part of history that I knew nothing about, and I left the cinema wanting to know more, and in fact today I actually read up a bit on it. Hero has a limited screen release in the UK, and I know that it's playing at the Ritzy in Brixton quite soon, and if you could get tickets for it, I would urge you to go and see it. It is a fascinating story, beautifully told, of a wonderful life. Francis Anne Solomon and Ulrich Cross, I take my hat off to you.